Everyone lies about diets. I'm going to tell you the truth. And I'm going to start by reciting Jesus' parable because I believe it describes my diet and the way I think about diet perfectly. Jesus had a parable, and I'm sure you'll know about it, about the house on the rock and the house on the sand. The house on the rock, on the strong foundation, will withstand wind, storm, and flood. Meanwhile, the house built on the sand will just, float away with a simple flood, a very shallow flood. It's not a strong foundation. That's the way I view diet. You have to be strategic about your diet. You have to think intelligently about your diet. So, you're looking to build muscle and not gain fat. All right, that's your goal here. And that's why bulking and cutting is stupid, because it violates that rule, except for special exceptions. But I'm going to go over that later. For now, we're going to go over the building blocks of your diet and the house, so to speak, although the building blocks are more important. Your building blocks, my building blocks, are grass-fed beef, pasture-raised eggs, and raw milk. Your building blocks should be similar. I would wager it should be the same thing, but it can be similar. It should be made up of protein, and animal fat, which is what milk is, and eggs and beef has animal fat. Then you get protein from all three too. These are your building blocks. This is what actually helps you build muscle and grow. Now, you also need to consume supplemental food. Now, what is supplemental food? Not supplements, but supplemental food. Supplemental foods are things like carbs and other things that help you get your micronutrients down, right? Now, the reason why I say carbs are supplemental is because carbs increase your insulin, and insulin is a tool. You have to remember, we're being strategic here. Insulin is a tool, all right, not the name of the game. And a lot of these people who just consume a bunch of carbs, the insulin's the name of the game. The problem with just spiking your insulin all the time is, while it's true, insulin is anabolic and will help you get bigger, right? You also, when you spike it too much, you get insulin resistance, which leads to diabetes. Now, it's more of an issue for really fast digesting carbs. And again, we talk a bit more about, I'm going to talk about carbs in general, okay? There's two types of carbs. There's fast digesting, which is stuff like liquid carbs, junk food, although you shouldn't be eating junk food. You can get fast digesting carbs from stuff like honey, right? And slow digesting are things like whole wheat bread, all right? You want to use both of these strategically. So, before your workout or right after your workout, you want to have some fast digesting carbs, like a little bit of honey. There you go. Right? And it's also going to help your glycogen stores, right? And then throughout the day, you want to be eating some, slow digesting carbs, so over time you can have the carbs that you need in order to spike those out. I'm not going to get too much into nerd territory, okay? That's how I think about it, and it works, all right? What you can't be doing is just eating carbs all the time, because carbs increase your insulin. And you're going to have some good results for a while, for a little bit. And there could be times where you eat extra carbs. That works too. But when you do it for too long, your insulin is going to be spiked too much. And you're going to get insulin resistance, which means insulin isn't really going to have an effect on you anymore. Which insulin resistance also leads to diabetes. So it's a two-edged sword right there. You need to be careful about carbs. All right? Consume carbs. You need insulin. Don't go on keto. I don't think going on keto is necessarily the best idea if you want to build muscle. But at the same time, you have to be strategic and thoughtful about the way you consume carbs. But as far as the building blocks go, don't worry too much about how much you eat. I'm not going to talk about too much about calories in versus calories out, although I'll talk about a bit about that in bulking versus cutting. When you're consuming healthy food and you're consuming building blocks, it's very hard to overeat because our bodies have a natural, unless you have some problem with your metabolism or whatever. I mean, whatever makes people super fat, out of their control, quote unquote. Unless you have one of those issues, your body's very good at regulating itself, unless you're eating crap, because then that doesn't make you full, and it's a bunch of excess calories. Now, talk about two other things really quickly before we segue into the next thing, which is going to be bulking and cutting. Fasting. So, I fast. Now, I do think there's something to be said about bulking with 4 meals a day, or just being in a period of muscle growth where you eat 4 meals a day, spread out. Haven't tried that yet, but I do think there's some merit to it. But in general, you should be fasting. Now, aside from the brain benefits, the productivity benefits, and whatnot, as far as this goes, you're going to increase your growth hormone, and also you're going to lower your insulin. Which means, and when you lower insulin, when you eat some carbs, your insulin's going to be more effective, so to speak. Because, I'm going to use a weird analogy here, but if you know, you know. It's like when let's say you smoke weed, right? The first time, or the first few times, and by the way, I don't advocate smoking weed, but the first few times, I usually took an oil when I did do it, which I shouldn't have. But when I took an oil, like this much was enough to get me going, right? But over time, as I did it weekly, I didn't do it every single day, but like a weekly, every Friday, every Saturday, I would need this. That's how insulin works, okay? You build up a tolerance to it. So when you're fasting, it's kind of like resetting your tolerance, so to speak. So that's why fasting is important. It's going to help you actually build muscle. Now, when I get to the bulking, actually, I'm going to talk quickly about supplements, and I'm going to talk about fasting and bulking. So, supplements. Supplements are not magic. Don't fall for these scams if someone's like, hey guys, take my supplement, you're going to gain 4 pounds of muscle in a month. If you know, you know. That was an impression of. But seriously, there's no magic supplement. But I am an advocate of taking supplements. Ashwagandha works. I've taken it. Tonkat Ali works. I've taken it. Fidogia agrestis does work. I've taken it. And also, stuff to help you reach your micronutrient goals. So maybe you need to supplement potassium. Maybe you need to supplement magnesium, etc. There's a place for supplements, but don't think supplements are going to make you huge. Don't think supplements are a replacement for training and your diet. They aren't. They're supplements. Supplements. It's in the name. All right? It's always funny because I always talk about supplements. Oh, this supplement's going to do this. This supplement's going to do that. Bro, it's called a supplement. It's supposed to supplement everything else. Not supposed to be the primary core. I remember your foundation, your core building blocks are protein and fat from animals. Always remember that. Everything after that is, supplemental. Now I'm talking about bulking and cutting. So you should not be bulking and cutting. Bulking and cutting is a complete meme. Except for these two situations. So let's say you are really lean. Like when I say really lean, I mean like 8 to 10% body fat. Super lean. Then you can bulk. And I define a bulk as 350 calories or more in a surplus. Now that's a range, right? Because I don't count my calories. I'm talking about counting calories soon. But that's a range in general, okay? But over 350 calories, I think that's a good ballpark. Well, you should only be doing that when you're super lean or super skinny. It's the only time you should be doing it. Now, cutting is when you have a deficit of over 350. Now, you should only be doing this when you're super fat. Only time you should be cutting. Those are only two situations you can bulk and cut. If you're not in those situations, then you should be recomping. Now, I'm giving you calorie numbers because if you look up recomp, there's going to be some different definitions. But the way I view a recomp is, as it says, recomposing your body to be better. All right? You can say the other ones are recomps, but again, I'm defining my terms here, okay? I'm making this as clear as possible. Recomping can either be a straight up maintenance recomp, where you're eating at maintenance. It could be a small surplus recomp, or it could be a small deficit recomp. Now, the way I look at it is like, okay, if you're in the complete middle, like you're not skinny fat, but you don't have a bunch of muscle, right? Or maybe you just want to build muscle. Maybe you have some muscle, but you don't have a lot of fat, right? You should be around maintenance. Now, if you are on the leaner side, you aren't super lean, but you're kind of lean, you have some muscle, you want to gain some more, kind of let it go into a little surplus, just a little one. Now, if you are more in the, kind of skinny fat territory, then you should be at a very small deficit. And when I say skinny fat territory, I mean almost skinny fat. When you are skinny fat, you should be around maintenance or a very small surplus. Because you don't need to gain fat, and you don't need to cut. You don't need to do either of those. You just need to build muscle. High quality mass. And that's going to save you a lot of time, because it is true. Some people bulk and cut and it does work for them. That is true. And don't look at steroid users. Okay, steroid users are not a good marker for you. I'm talking about naturals. Some naturals do bulk and cut and it does work for them. But really, it's pointless, because adding in these extra calories isn't going to make you gain any more muscle than you would have if you just recomp the whole time. Instead, you just have to go up here, and then you have to go down here. If you want to do that, go ahead. Although most people end up messing up. They either cut too much or they bulk too much. When you recomp, it's very easy to, keep it going. And the reason why people bulk and cut is mainly because they want to see results quickly. If you bulk, you put on a bunch of weight. You can see the scale. And also, don't use a scale as a marker, because it's easy to put on weight. It's also easy to lose weight. I always advocate, and I'm going to link my physique video in the description, because it's going to be very relevant to this video. It's a very good supplemental video to this one. Supplemental. But you have to look at your mirror, you look at your measurements. Never neglect either of those, because if your weight's going up but your mirror looks worse, or you look worse in the mirror, and your measurements are getting bad, then the weight doesn't matter. Same thing goes if you're losing weight. Focus on actual results, because at the end of the day, we want to look good, right? We don't actually care about weight. We just want to look good. So always remember that, because there's a lot of stories of people, they just follow the scale, and they end up getting fat. That's one reason why I'm against bulking, because it's so unnecessary. You don't need to do it unless you're super, super lean, as I said earlier. Because, again, I'm going to leave on this point. When you bulk and cut, you can start here, you bulk, and you cut, and you end up here. All right. I know that graph doesn't make a lot of sense, but let's say you end up here. You can either go up and down to get there, or you could just go like this to get there. I'd rather go like this to get there. Now, let's see what's next. Food quality. So food quality is extremely important. All right. Don't be a meme and fall for the memes. If you fall for a meme, then you're a meme. First of all, organic. So I think it's quite widely known that pesticides aren't good for you, and organic food is not treated with pesticides. Some of you might say, how do you know? Truthfully, you kind of have to take a leap of faith. I would say it's better than nothing, and also you can kind of taste the difference. I've had conventional versus organic. Organic tastes better. Could be placebo, but that's my personal experience. You should be getting organic food. Now, if you want some kind of studies or whatever, look up atrazine. And we're talking a bit more about atrazine later, because that's in the water supply. But you can look at atrazine and how it affects your hormonal profile. It's an endocrine disruptor. You can look up the lawsuits against Roundup, which is another very common pesticide. And that kind of ties into GMO. Now, I'm kind of getting into oh, you got a tinfoil hat on. All those retards who say that. Anyone who says you have a tinfoil hat on is a complete idiot. That's a unbreakable rule of the universe. Everyone who says tinfoil hat is a retard. All right, I don't make the rules. I just tell you the rules. But you can look up studies, and I think this is kind of the zone on YouTube where they are not going to like it, but Monsanto, the same people who made the Roundup, which has been sued a bunch of times for how terrible it is for humans, we're the people who designed these GMO products. And if you look up, man, I can't say his name on YouTube, can I? Okay, so if you want to know, DM me on Instagram, ask me about, just DM me GMO, and I'm going to send you a link to a video, and it's going to have some studies in it. All right, do that. Next, water. So we talked a bit about atrazine earlier. So as we know, the water's turning freaking frogs gay, as one legend would put it. Atrazine, there's a certain level of atrazine that's allowed in the water. And that level of atrazine is higher than what it takes to sterilize and trans a frog. Now, that should be enough for a lot of you to understand why you should be filtering your water. And also, of course, there's something else in the water. You know the stuff they put in toothpaste to make your teeth stronger? That makes you dumber. Tinfoil hat. It's true. DM me on Instagram. Toothpaste. I'll send you a study that showed it. And it was a government study. They didn't want to release it. Excuse me. Gotta loosen up my tongue a little bit. DM me on Instagram the word toothpaste. I'm going to send you the study that was conducted by a government, or the government, some sanctioning body, whatever. And they didn't want to release it, but they were forced to release it after a lawsuit. And lower IQ showed it. So you should be filtering your water. I think that goes without saying. I think a lot of people already do filter the water. But you also need to be avoiding plastic. And everyone already says that. Everyone says, yeah, we know plastic is bad. Plastic's bad. We should be, drinking out of glass. But what they don't tell you, these people on YouTube, because I was watching these videos, I've done competitor research. They don't tell you about this. They say get BPA free. But that is walking you right into a trap. BPA free is a scam. Because you know what they do instead of putting BPA? They put BPS or BPF, which is the same thing as BPA, but it's just a different name. It's essentially the same thing as BPA. It's maybe a little bit different in molecular structure, whatever the hell the nerds call it, right? But it has the same effects. It's effectively the same thing. But they can say BPA free because it's not BPA. And this is really just a simple marketing thing. Everyone's like, or excuse me, the marketing director's like, everyone knows BPA is bad. Pretty obvious at this point. Let's call it BPA free, but let's use BPS or BPF because it's still cheap. It is as bad, but it's still cheap. And we call it BPA free. And we can actually mark up the price because we're calling it BPA free. It's a famoose, as one person would put it. Scam. Next, pasteurized milk. So there was a study conducted a very, very long time ago. And essentially, I don't know how reliable the study is. I did drink pasteurized milk for a very long time, but I can say raw milk is no doubt better. Hypothetically speaking, because you aren't allowed to get raw milk in a store unless you could live in 3 states. I think 3 states allow it, but in Florida, you can't. You have to go into a farm and get some raw milk that says not for human consumption. And then you may or may not have to consume it. I don't know. That sounds crazy, right? Humans were drinking raw milk for thousands of years, but, now, we have pasteurized milk. That's dangerous. They always use danger in order to make you do things that you probably shouldn't. Always remember that. Fear is a propaganda tactic. But in any case, pasteurized milk, in a study, it was shown that rats became far less fertile when they fed pasteurized milk as opposed to raw milk. Now, you could talk about that study and how it's old and how it's probably outdated and how it probably wasn't that reliable. Okay, sure. But all I understand is that raw milk has far more nutrients. And some people are like, you don't lose the nutrients when you boil it. Yes, you do. You're never going to be able to convince me otherwise. Because one, intuitively, that just makes sense. And second of all, I've seen pasteurized milk versus raw milk. When you leave raw milk, there's cream on top that separates. Okay? And it's also far more creamy, far more thicker, the milk. Tastes a lot better too. When you pasteurize it, that doesn't happen. The milk's a lot thinner. Even whole milk is a lot thinner, and the cream doesn't separate on top. If it loses the cream, then how can it have the same amount of nutrients? That doesn't make any sense. And why do they add nutrients into it if it doesn't lose nutrients? Because if you look at the label of a lot of milk, they have added vitamin D or something like that, right? If it had the same nutrient profile, then why would they add stuff? It doesn't make any sense. Next, grass-fed beef. Your beef, now you don't have to get grass-fed beef. I think regular beef is still better than the vegan diet they're trying to push on you, and these Beyond Burgers made by Bill Gates, that little chicken egg bastard. But you should be getting grass-fed beef, and the reason why is very simple. The rule of thumb to use when you're eating food is try to find it in its most natural state. Cows naturally are eating grass. That's what cows naturally eat. And also grass-fed beef tastes a lot better, but they're naturally eating grass. Recently, they've been feeding them a bunch of corn, which is a problem because corn, genetically modified, not unorganic. Corn, grain, all this other stuff. So the cows get really fat. Now, the reason why they do this is because, one, it makes the meat more fatty, and also makes the cows bigger, which means they can get more meat out of it. So it's a way of making more money for the farmers. But what comes with this is lower quality beef that isn't as good for you. Meanwhile, grass-fed beef is closest to its natural state. Cows are not supposed to be eating a bunch of grains. They're supposed to be eating grass. And the same thing goes for chickens, pigs, and all these other... I don't know what pigs usually eat. Scratch pigs. I don't know what pigs usually eat, but I know chickens, they aren't supposed to be grain-fed. You know what chickens eat? Worms, bugs, and stuff like that. All right, and you can tell when you just buy different types. I guess I'm shifting gears into chicken a little bit, but chicken's a very shocking example, right? You can look at an organic chicken at Whole Foods. It's fat. It's fat. It's fat like Boogie 298. It's fat. And then when you get a pasture-raised chicken, it's much smaller. That's how chickens are supposed to be. Chickens are not supposed to be these fat things. Same thing goes for cows. They make it fatter because they can make more money off it. They could sell more. And yeah, I guess if you were starving to death, it would be better to have grain-fed. Although, you could just eat the grains, unless it was a certain type of grain. But I guess it would be better to have these fattened cows. But if you aren't in that situation, you should be getting grass-fed beef. Now, aspartame. I'm going to tell you one thing about aspartame, and this is the stuff they use in these no-sugar sodas, which are a complete scam, by the way. Do not get no-sugar sodas. Don't think, oh, well, I'm okay. I can drink a Coke because it's Diet Coke. Shut up. It's not true. Don't get Diet Coke. Diet Coke is worse because they use aspartame, which recently the WHO said it's a cancer risk. So I thought that was interesting, but in any case, aspartame, you can go on Google, if you think I'm lying here, you can look up the patent. Aspartame is genetically modified E. coli fecal matter. Now, if you're so much of a retard that I need to explain to you why it's bad after telling you that, then I don't know what to do with you. I don't know how you would even be able to make it to this point in this video if you don't think that's a problem. Genetically modified E. coli fecal matter. Next point. I already talked about that. Okay, so we're going to talk about addictions really quickly. So, a lot of you guys are probably addicted to junk food and soda. I'm going to tell you how to quit soda. Alright, quitting soda is actually really easy. And I did this while I was still a geek. I quit soda pretty early. I quit soda before I actually decided to change my life. So, I guess you could say my amazingness was manifested quite early in my life. All you have to do is replace soda with sparkling water. Whenever you want a soda, drink sparkling water. That's what I did and it worked. It's that easy. You don't have to watch a 50-minute video about how to quit soda. That's it. Next, junk food. So I'm going to apply the same principle here because I don't really consume junk food. I'm going to apply the same principle here as quitting all other vices that I've told you in other videos. You can simply just acknowledge that you don't actually enjoy these things. Because when you're addicted to something, you don't really enjoy it that much. Have you ever realized that when it comes to, scrolling on social media, watching explicit content, playing video games, you don't actually enjoy it? If you were to turn on your brain, you'd realize I don't actually enjoy this. And the same thing goes for junk food. I'm thinking about the last time I ate Doritos. That was years ago. Years ago. Last time I ate Doritos. I'm thinking, I didn't really enjoy it that much, did I? I mean, yeah, it tasted kind of good. But, I mean, it's not anything crazy. It's not like an orgasm. And I just felt like crap afterwards. I didn't really enjoy the Doritos. Why would I eat it again? If you don't enjoy something, why would you do it again? And this is the way of going about quitting things, okay? Because, one, you're the arbiter of what's fun and what's not fun. You decide what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy. Okay, it's arbitrary. Just because little Timmy down the street, little Timmy the retard, says, well, Doritos are good and I enjoy them, doesn't mean you have to enjoy them too. Quote unquote, enjoy them. Don't declare you enjoy something that you shouldn't be doing, because then it's going to make it harder not to do. Life quote right there. But also, when you say that you enjoy something and then you try quitting, you're using discipline instead of just saying, I don't actually enjoy it. For example, you want to quit Doritos, and you have Doritos. Let's say I have Doritos in my hand right here. And you can either say, well, I do enjoy these Doritos, this is what most people do. I enjoy these Doritos, but, I don't think I should eat it. Then you're just standing there like, I want them. Or you can have someone with my mindset is like, well, I don't enjoy those Doritos. They're not even that good. Like last time I ate Doritos, it wasn't even that enjoyable experience. Why would you want them after that? That's the way you got to think about it. That's how you don't use discipline, because discipline is a finite resource. And you should be working on your discipline. But it's a finite resource. You shouldn't be wasting on things you don't need to waste it on. And these addictions, these vices, you don't need to waste your discipline on. You should be able to quit them like that. That's what I did when I realized this mindset. Okay, it's much easier to quit things. Now, something that also helps your diet is generally increasing your discipline, because, at some point you probably will have to use discipline in your diet, right? You can do that by, actually, I'm going to segue this into the movement section of the video, right? This is a movement building back Christian men. One of the tenets is taking care of our temples, and part of that is our diets. All right? Now, when you take this all-encompassing approach where you're working out, you're doing business, you're learning things every day, you're praying, you're learning about the Bible, theology, you're actually living up to your God-given potential, you will build discipline naturally. And that will segue into your diet. Always look at working out, look at learning, look at all these things as a whole. Excuse me. This burp got stuck. Excuse me. Anyways, look at it like a all-encompassing thing. Don't just focus in on the diet. Focus on everything else too, and then it'll help you with your diet. Your diet will help you with your physique. Your diet will help you learn things. Your diet will help your discipline. And your discipline will help your diet. It all works together. It's synergistic. That's why it's very important that you understand the movement here is building back Christian men. It's an all-encompassing thing. Want to join the movement? Link in description to the Discord, watch the rest of the videos on my channel, and subscribe for future videos. Go to my website, give me your email, I'll send you newsletters, and follow me on Instagram, and like my posts, so my Instagram looks better. Those are my call to actions. See you in the next video.